Hello and welcome. It's very exciting to have everyone here today. It's great to see so many Start devs and Meta Horizon Creator Program members joining this session as a part of the Meta Horizon Go-to-Market Academy. Today, we're diving into a topic that's hugely important if you're looking to grow your audience and build momentum, influencer marketing. But before we jump in, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is George Goitasolo. I'm a program manager here at Meta. Being a part of the Scaled Launch Services team means I get to collaborate every day with developers and creators like you. Some of you may have seen me host the VR Games marketing panel at Connect last year. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Before Meta, I worked in global brand and content strategy across tech, gaming, and entertainment, supporting major franchises and platforms. I bring that experience into this role to help you go to market with more clarity, more confidence, and more impact. That's what the Go-to-Market Academy is all about, giving you real, actionable tools to help your launch succeed. These monthly sessions are designed to equip you with insights and strategies you can actually use. Which brings us to today's focus, influencer marketing. We're partnering with VAL, the largest VR game-focused agency out there. They've supported launches for over 100 titles, including hits like Gorilla Tag and Breachers. Today, they'll be sharing what works, what doesn't, and how to build smart influencer strategies for your VR title. By the end of the session, our hope is that you'll walk away with a clear understanding of how influencer marketing fits into your launch plan and some practical tactics you can apply right away. And Val will also share a few helpful resources to support you put these ideas into action. With that, I'm excited to turn it over to our presenters from Val. Jeff Brooks, Director of Marketing, and Shay Pertulski, Influencer Marketing Manager. Jeff and Shay, welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, George. So as George mentioned, I'm Jeff Brooks. I'm the director of marketing on the VAL side. So I've been at VAL for about 4.5 years now. And in that time, I've worked on campaigns for over 100 different gaming titles, including major IP like Among Us, Far Cry, Hello Neighbor, and more. So really excited to share some of my knowledge with you all today.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Shay and I'm Val's influencer marketing manager. So I've been here for about 3.5 years and I've done everything from actually managing brand deals for VR and gaming influencers to actually executing launch campaigns for some of VR's largest titles over the last few years. So really excited to be here with you all today.
And if you're not familiar with VAL, we were founded in 2016 by our CEO Ryan as a VR arcade at the time. And since then, we've morphed into a leading game-centered marketing agency specializing in VR and Horizon World experiences. So, like George mentioned, we've worked with well over 100 titles to date, and we're really excited to share some info with you today. So here's what our agenda is going to be looking like. First, we're going to talk through some of the basics of influencer marketing. Then we're going to move into the two main types of influencer work, being paid and earned, before moving into the differences between short form and long form content. Then we'll touch on both when and how to get influencers to cover your game, before diving into reporting and finishing with takeaways and some questions. So I know influencer marketing is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it can feel a little bit vague and daunting at times. So we're going to start with some of the basics today.
All right. And for the real basics, what is influencer marketing? So, as stated here, influencer marketing involves partnering with individuals who possess social followings to promote your product to their audiences. Now, this can come in the form of paid partnerships or by offering a product or a perk such as game keys in exchange for coverage and feedback. Now, the next question you would ask is why is influencer marketing effective and a crucial tool for launching your games and experiences? Well, both Horizon Worlds and the MetaQuest Store are rapidly growing ecosystems with more and more titles entering the platform every year. And as a result, off-platform discovery is more important than ever to help your title stand out from the competition. And we can actually confirm this with some data from a study referencing that more than half of TikTok users, which is almost 800 million, watched gaming-related content daily. And similarly, another study here details that among Quest users in the United States, over 1/5 of users cited influencer content as the reason to purchase or download an app.
So the first step in any good marketing campaign, influencer or otherwise, is something that should actually be on all of your minds already after last month's webinar with Scout House, and that's knowing your game. And so just a reminder to check out last month's resource on getting to know your game before going to market. From an influencer marketing perspective, this is going to be the process of answering key questions that'll help you identify the right influencers to cover your title and assist you in pitching them on why they should cover it in the first place. These are going to be questions like, who are your closest competitors or other comparative titles? And what are the standout features of your world or title that help differentiate you from your competitors? I always encourage people to be honest, not aspirational when it comes to answering these questions. It's one thing to say, I'm an upstart VR Battle Royale title, hoping to differentiate myself from my competitors with larger teams and unique revival mechanics. It's another thing to say, I'm VR Fortnite, right? Fortnite is a massive title with access to hundreds of major IP, and that's likely not the case for your title right now. So answering these questions honestly is going to be the best way to guide your decisions as you move into the process of influencer marketing. So with that in mind, let's dive into the first influencer approach, which is going to be paid coverage. So just like it sounds like, paid coverage is the act of entering into a paid agreement with an influencer to cover your title. These videos have to be publicly disclosed as sponsored. There are going to be pros and cons to entering into these types of paid agreements with influencers. So on the plus side, paid agreements guarantee you'll have a baseline amount of content covering your marketing beat. At times, developers might shy away from giving out payments or contracts, and they can, in some instances, actually end up disappointed with the lack of coverage they receive. So even giving out small payments to small channels helps to ensure you're getting some level of content coverage. Paid coverage also allows you to be more prescriptive with influencers, so you can make sure they hit any key talking points you're looking for in content. Otherwise, influencers could potentially relay inaccurate information or focus on features of a game that you don't feel are relevant or showcase your title in the best light. Lastly, paid coverage also gives you the right to approve content and request edits. So this helps to ensure that content is high quality and also ensures your brand isn't being associated with anything you might consider offensive. There are downsides to taking this paid approach as well, other than the fact that it's just expensive. So oftentimes sponsored content is going to underperform relative to an influencer's usual videos. So if you reached a paid agreement expecting the same level of viewership that influencer usually receives on their channel, you might end up disappointed. Ultimately, the influencer is trying a new game on their channel, and there's no guarantee it's going to resonate with their audience, even if it seems like a perfect fit. Also, once they've been paid to cover a game, some influencers may actually avoid covering it for free in the future in the hopes of being paid to cover it again. So there are some instances where paid coverage can harm long-term content creation. Then, of course, sponsored content can also come across as inauthentic if it sticks too closely to corporate talking points. So when consumers see hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored tags on a video, they can already be a little bit hesitant. And if they tune into that video and see that the influencer can't speak in their normal voice or doesn't seem to be giving their usual opinions, that's going to cause that video to perform very poorly. The great thing about working with influencers is they have really organic, trusted relationships with their audiences. So we want to make sure we're tapping into that organic relationship rather than pushing against it or breaking that trust.
Yeah, and so to give everyone an example of what a great piece of sponsored content can look like, we'll share the introduction to this video from the YouTuber Node, who worked with us on a sponsored video for the official launch of Triangle Factory's 2023 title, Breachers. Now, prior to reaching out to Node, their channel primarily focused on flat 2D gaming content, but after we pitched them that Breachers is similar to Rainbow Six Siege but in VR, they expressed tremendous interest and actually enjoyed the game so much that after making the sponsored video with us, they created a follow-up organic video on their own, and they expressed interest in working with us on more VR titles in the future. So this video also went on to actually be one of the higher performing pieces of content for our campaign, as well as performing super well on their channel, earning over 300,000 views on their first video and over 150,000 views on their second organic video. So we'll take a look at the first minute of their original video to give you all an idea of how influencers can properly introduce and build hype for a game that is sponsoring their channel.
Alright, buckle up boys and girls, because today we're playing Breachers. It's a super tactical 5v5 SWAT team breaching game similar to Rainbow Six Siege, but built from the ground up exclusively for VR. If you know me at all, you know that this is my jam. So I was super excited when the Breachers team reached out wanting to do an official video for the game's launch. So yes, this video is sponsored by Triangle Factory, and I couldn't be happier because Breachers truly is the VR multiplayer game that I've been waiting for.
All right, and so when we're considering paid coverage specifically for Horizon Worlds, there are a few key differences in how you should approach influencer activations. First, we really recommend exploring 2D and mobile gaming influencers. This is because in 2024, 2D gaming influencers created multiple pieces of the top performing Horizon World contents while playing on the desktop and mobile versions of the selected worlds. We also recommend encouraging influencers' content to highlight community. And one of the unique elements of Horizon Worlds is that individual worlds can serve as a community gathering space for users. So influencers should be encouraged to interact with and or film with others to highlight the platform's social nature. And lastly, leaning into free-to-play language. The free-to-play status of Horizon Worlds and its ease of accessibility via mobile platforms offers a low barrier to entry for new players while serving as an effective hook for content creation. So target influencers who make similarly free-to-play content on other mobile or desktop platforms, such as Roblox, during your research to find who can best present these effectively to their audiences.
So a question we get asked a lot in our line of work is, can paid coverage still be effective for me if I have a minimal budget to pay influencers with? And thankfully, the answer to that question is yes. Not every influencer activation needs to be some huge Mr. Beast style video, right? Developers with smaller budgets have actually seen a lot of success spreading multiple small payments among micro influencers in niche communities, and then acquiring commercial rights on that content. So when I talk about commercial rights, I'm talking about the ability to run those pieces of influencer content as ads online. So by pairing those influencer-led assets with performance marketing spend, such as TikTok Spark ads or Facebook ads, developers can actually amplify content from smaller influencers and directly drive installs of their titles. This is particularly beneficial for free-to-play titles in Worlds because those are much easier to drive downloads of. A question we get asked even more often in our line of work is, can I use influencer marketing if I have no budget at all? This would be an incredibly short presentation if the answer was no, and I get paid by the hour, so thankfully, once again, the answer to that question is yes. And with that, we can dive into the second influencer approach, which is earned coverage. So earned coverage is the act of receiving coverage from an influencer without providing any payment or contractual agreements. Most developers achieve earned coverage by providing influencers with game keys or early access to their titles. So just like with paid content, there are going to be pros and cons to taking this earned approach. So on the one hand, earned content lowers the upfront cost of marketing because no outgoing spend is required. The only real cost to you as a developer or world builder is time. When it's successful, earned content also significantly increases the amount of content on your game, which really helps with searchability in the process. Even if the channels are small, there's a huge benefit to consumers searching your game on YouTube and seeing a bunch of different videos populating of people playing the game and having fun. And then, of course, earned content also gives you more chances to hit the content algorithm and go viral. If we treat unpaid influencer videos like lottery tickets, you'd rather have 50 chances at hitting the jackpot than 5. So try to maximize that earned outreach to get as many chances as possible, because even if only one of those videos goes viral, it's going to be worth it. At the same time, there are some downsides when it comes to earned coverage as well. So first and foremost, influencers are not guaranteed to cover a title, and even if they do, they're not going to be bound by any timelines to do so. So you could end up with coverage of your title months after its launch, or no coverage at all. Like I mentioned earlier, there have been instances where developers have over-indexed on this earned support and ended up disappointed. Additionally, without any kind of agreement, influencers aren't going to be bound by any content restrictions or guidelines. So they could create offensive content or leave your game a publicly facing negative review. And then lastly, I just want to acknowledge as well that it is a time-consuming process to engage in earned coverage and do it well. It requires researching influencers, reaching out to them, engaging in any back and forth, and answering questions. So just want to be considerate for small dev teams and acknowledge that it can be a time-consuming process, and we know how much time does go into the development process itself.
Yeah, and so a quick note to mention on earned coverage for Horizon Worlds is that even though the platform may not have traditional game keys to distribute to influencers, creators can still provide influencers with direct links to their world or supplement the value of those links by offering additional early access or exclusive in-game cosmetics or even any other sort of in-world purchases to incentivize coverage. And so what is our recommendation when it comes to paid versus earned coverage for a campaign? Well, by engaging in a combination of both paid and earned outreach, your team will avoid the potential pitfalls of over-indexing on earned coverage by guaranteeing a baseline of paid influencer support for your title, while simultaneously casting a wide net and lowering upfront marketing costs when compared to 100% paid spend. In fact, when the entire process works together, large paid influencers help to inspire earned coverage from smaller channels. And we even have this fun little graphic here to demonstrate how this reverse funnel approach works between larger paid influencers and earned influencers.
So now that we know a little bit more about those different influencer approaches, let's take a minute to dive into the two most common methods for creating content, short form and long form. So first, we have short form content. Short form content is quick content. This is typically under 1 minute in length, and it quickly explores talking points as opposed to going in depth on any subject. So when we think of short form content, we're tending to think of platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or Facebook Reels. And then, of course, there's also long form content. So long form content is going to be more extensive video content, typically over 5 minutes in length, that generally covers one or multiple topics in depth. So when we think of long form content, we tend to think of dedicated YouTube videos or live streams on platforms like Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. There are some pieces of content that hover between those two categories that might be 3 to 4 minutes in length, but in general, most pieces of content are going to fall under one of those two categories.
Yeah, and so to now give you all a break from hearing from us for a second, we have two examples of short form content from influencers that we worked with for last year's launch of Playroom Tower Defense on Horizon Worlds. And through these two videos, you guys are going to be able to observe the two different approaches taken by the influencers, where you're going to notice that Cryptic's typical content is going to primarily focus around VR and Gorilla Tag, and it's much more based in comedy and crazy moments. Nintendo Girl is going to be much more of a 2D gamer with her content leaning a little more relaxed and exploratory.
This is Playroom Tower Defense, an all-new game that's out right now in Horizon Worlds. I have here with me Eric, who's going to be helping me defend my playground.
I'm actually attacking you. I'm gonna destroy your house.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Give me the tower. I have my first tower, Eric. Here come the enemies, Eric.
I must defend the tower.
And here they come, Eric. Attack! Beat it up, beat it up. You got hands. Oh.
I think I got him.
I need-
I want it.
No. Give me. I got it. Haha, loser.
I got it too. 13 toy tokens. I don't want to hear it.
I got 46 toy tokens.
What?
Man, my towers are standing on business. Look, I feel like I built a monopoly here, dude. I could have so done this without you. Eric, if I beat the next round, you owe me $100. I don't care. I need another gun.
Whoa! Yo, I'm up here. I'm on top of the
Yo!
tower. I'm gonna sabotage it. Cryptic, look.
I got my gun. Yo, stop wasting my ducks. You can't hit me with the... Oh, yo, get this monkey. He's going way too fast. Oh, thank God. Eric, guess what? I got to round 5, which means you owe me $100. Pay up, sir. Yo, Eric, I said pay up.
Hello my cozy gamers, today I have another cute game recommendation for you. This fun game can be found on Meta Horizon, which is Meta's new gaming platform. You can play Meta Horizon on PC like I'm doing right here, or you can also play on mobile and on VR. Meta Horizon is also totally free and it gives you access to so many games, and you can even create your own game. Side note, do you think I did a good job with my avatar? I think she's pretty cute. Even though there are tons of amazing games and worlds in Meta Horizon, today we're jumping into Playroom Tower Defense. In this fun and nostalgic world, you have to defend the cardboard cube from waves of angry toys. You can fight back against these kind of cute attackers using a bunch of different equipment and buildable towers. The whole environment that you're in for this game is just so cute and nostalgic to me. You can work together with your friends or just other people in the world. And I'm always looking for fun multiplayer games, so this is perfect. Make sure to join me on Meta Horizon, where you can play Kawaii's Playroom Tower Defense and a bunch of other cool fun games.
Alright, so from these two examples, we can see how even through the shared use of short-form content, these videos are very unique because of the personalities attached to them, and they both highlight the experience in entirely different ways. It's also worth noting that as of now, short-form content has proven to be the best performing content approach for Horizon World specifically, which is why we decided to feature them here. And now, similarly to short form, we also have a few examples to share of some long form content, and we won't play the entirety of these videos or else we'd be here all day, but we would just like to highlight how some unique approaches to long form can really enhance the quality and reception of a video. And for this, we'll be sharing the intro pieces from YouTubers Tony Jeffries and Sugarstar. For context, Tony Jeffries is a former Olympic boxer that collaborated with us, the Thrill team, and Node for the early access launch of Thrill to Fight 2 at the end of last year to create a multi-part series of highly produced video content on his YouTube channel. And so this is going to be the first clip from his first video in that series.
I'm about to get in that ring and have my first ever YouTube boxing fight. But this is going to be like something you've never seen before because we're going to be using state-of-the-art technology to do this. I'm going to be fighting this guy.
Tony, I've been training my whole life for this. I know you're an undefeated boxer, but I'm about to send you to the VRER.
He is in Box and Burn Gym in Los Angeles, California, and I'm here in Rare Breed, Melbourne, Australia. Before I get in the ring and try and knock him out, I want to show you exactly how this is going to work and how someday you could potentially fight me too using this same technology. Let's go. So we're doing this using a MetaQuest headset and the Thrill of the Fight 2 game. What really blows my mind about this boxing game is how realistic it is, because it measures the velocity and the power of your punches. So even though I'm on the other side of the world from D, who I'm about to have this fight with, the harder I hit him, the more damage that it's going to do. And what else is great about the headset is a track shot positioning. So when he throws punches at me, I can slip them, I can roll them, and I'll be able to defend these punches in real time. Now I'm about to get in the ring with him and teach him some basic punches before I try and knock him out.
All right, so by building off the existing hype of the Logan Paul versus Mike Tyson fight around the time that this video came out, as well as presenting his audience with such a unique approach to boxing by being able to show the accessibility that the game offers, this intro and style really helped the series kick off to a great start through this collaboration. And now for the next clip that we'll feature is from Roblox player and toy reviewer Sugarstar, who had never actually covered VR before on her channel, but was super intrigued when we approached her about this opportunity due to her existing love of cats.
Oh, I am Cat. Oh, I'm so excited. No way. Oh! Cat paws! Oh my gosh! The couch is on the wall. The living room's on the wall. Okay, I must take my first step as a cat. According to the instructional video, I must make cat paws like this. And then I proceed. Okay. Oh my gosh. I am walking. I'm walking. Ah! Another video. Okay, another video. Okay. Meow, 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 meow. I must walk up the wall using my kitty cat claws. Oh, I got claws! This is quite fascinating. Okay.
Alright, so as seen through her excitement in her video, Sugarstar really did an excellent job at integrating her love of cats with this game and its content style, and it actually ended up being such a good fit for her and her audience that it's still her highest performing video out of her last 10 long-form videos on her channel.
So now that we've talked through these different types of content and seen some examples, the question becomes which content approach is right for your title, and what are the pros and cons of both? So when it comes to short form content, there are going to be some clear benefits. We're looking at highly digestible content with high potential for virality, right? It's quick, snappy, and easy to understand, and even content from small influencers can go viral and hit the algorithm. Additionally, because of the frequency and speed with which short form content is produced and posted, influencers can post multiple videos about a new game on their channel without alienating their audiences like they might with long form content. And then lastly, it's also worth noting that these short form pieces of content can be easily converted into ad assets because of their short length and clear hooks. So platforms like TikTok will directly allow you to repurpose this content and add clear links or calls to action directly through their business suites. There are downsides as well, though. So with short form content, performance is incredibly variable. Even channels with millions of followers could end up with only hundreds of views on a video if they don't hit the algorithm properly. Because of their short length, influencers also aren't able to show off games in depth in this format. So if your title's complex mechanically or requires long tutorials to be properly understood, short form content might not be the right fit for your title. Short form content is also less beneficial for searchability because YouTube long form does remain the king of video searching. It's also worth noting that short form videos require lower audience investment and oftentimes convert at lower rates because a lot of the times audience members might just be scrolling on their phone rather than actively seeking out any kind of product or gaming video. So the video might have simply popped into their feed. Lastly, without running ads, it is actually difficult to add links to landing pages with short form content. This is in stark contrast to something like a long form platform like YouTube, where links can be easily added to a video description and attribution is much more easily traced. When it comes to long form content, you're going to find that a lot of the pros and cons here are essentially flipped from the prior slide. So on the plus side, links are much more easily attributable via video descriptions. And the longer nature of these videos is also going to allow for more in-depth breakdowns of gameplay mechanics, story, or anything else you want to showcase in a longer fashion. Additionally, the audiences consuming this long-form content tend to be more highly engaged and likely to convert to a purchase. Like I touched on in the prior slide as well, long-form does remain the primary driver of searchable video content. When it comes to cons, long-form viewership tends to be less variable, but also less viral as a result. In general, the viewership is much more consistent, so even though you might not bottom out the way you can with short-form content, you're less likely to go viral and hit the algorithm. The rise of short-form content in social media have also just led to lower attention spans across the board. So just like some of you might be zoning out right now on slide 26, some consumers just don't have the time or patience to watch these in-depth breakdowns. It's also worth noting that most long-form influencers are only going to elect to post one piece of content due to the fact that they post less frequently and don't want to disrupt their channel. Because of the longer production timelines required, most influencers will also charge higher rates when it comes to long-form content as well. So now that we've talked through some of these different content approaches and the different types of content influencers produce, let's take some time to dive into when to engage influencers. So most people tend to think of influencer marketing as something that only occurs at launch, but it can actually be an effective tool to use at almost any step in your title's life cycle. So whether it's during the development phase, at launch, or post-launch, influencers can provide you with significant value. So engaging influencers during the development process can be an extremely beneficial relationship for both sides. First and foremost, this process provides a lot of valuable feedback to developers and world builders regarding what aspects of their build could use tweaking. Influencers are actually capable of providing confidential mock reviews, which contain a lot of advice regarding which game mechanics or level design choices in your current build they think will resonate with the broad gaming industry and also with other influencers. So they can do a great job of illuminating some blind sites of, oh, this current element of your game might actually deter other influencers from covering it. So that's always really beneficial because they're things that most developers typically won't have in mind. On the influencer end, these mock reviews are just an excellent way for them to earn some additional income without needing to produce any public-facing content because, like I mentioned, they can provide these confidentially directly to a developer or world builder. Additionally, during the development process, influencers are going to be capable of kickstarting community building for your title. They can create early access content and actually funnel users towards any community forums you possess like Discord. So this is going to be really beneficial for multiplayer titles or Horizon worlds that benefit from player concurrency. And then this type of content can actually be beneficial for influencers as well if they're permitted to present it as a first look or exclusive preview at the upcoming title on their channel.
All right, and so engaging influencers at a title or experience's official launch allows developers or creators to raise mass awareness for their game and drive consumers towards their store page to encourage immediate conversions or sales. Now, developers and creators can also promote any relevant community gathering spaces such as Discord or Reddit to really engage in building their game's community right at launch. And launch is also the perfect fit opportunity to re-engage any influencers that may have consulted with during the development process, as influencers often provide more positive coverage to titles that implemented improvements or features based on their feedback. And similarly, engaging influencers post-launch helps developers and creators raise awareness for relevant content updates or development roadmap steps that are likely to reignite player interest in their titles. And this can be a potent method of driving post-launch revenue by highlighting key moments such as sales or new in-app purchases. And post-launch influencer activations also grant developers the benefit of analyzing data from the title's launch in order to determine which influencers to reactivate or even activate again for the first time based on prior performance. Influencers can also benefit from post-launch engagements by receiving new in-game cosmetics or exclusive perks, and it can also serve as an effective reward for rewarding influencers who have continued to cover your title through opportunities like early access or exclusive reveals and various updates.
So now that we've talked through when to engage influencers a bit, we want to take a minute to talk through how to get influencers to cover your title. So the first step to getting influencers to cover your title is to actually keep them in mind when you're building your world or experience. Influencers have to choose between a massive catalog of different games to cover on their channel, and they'll almost always give preference to titles that make content capture easier. So when you're designing your title, we always recommend a few different steps. So first, it's always beneficial to create a debug version of your title, which enables influencers to move throughout different levels in game and unlock various items. This helps to ensure you have a variety of content on your game, because if influencers have to play through the entire game from the start, what you'll see is a lot of influencers will post videos on just those opening levels because they want to be one of the first ones to get content out. So having that debug version and letting them jump between levels helps to ensure you're getting a variety of coverage. Content capture is almost always easier for influencers if they have access to a PC build, as opposed to being able to only use a MetaQuest headset or mobile device. So that's always beneficial for capturing higher quality footage. And then lastly, a comprehensive capture mode designed for platforms like OBS is always helpful for influencers. So any different options or camera tools that you can put in game that allow influencers to capture the game in the best light possible, to use different dynamic camera angles, or anything else you can do to help make that content higher quality and provide a higher chance for virality is always going to be beneficial. So we always recommend keeping these things in mind when you're building your world.
Well, yeah, and so now after you've determined which types of content best suit your game and your available budget for any sponsorships, it's important to take a moment and prep your outreach messages and conversations by making sure that you have all of the correct info ready to share with the influencers. And the most helpful way to organize all of your game's information is through the creation of a succinct one-pager or a brand guidelines document, which we also call influencer briefs. Now, these briefs should summarize all of the key information about you and your game that an influencer may need to know before creating their content, most importantly, including information on game mechanics, pricing info, posting dates and embargo dates, as well as areas for them to focus their content on, or even avoid focusing their content on, and including any links, CTAs, or hashtags that they'll need to include in their video descriptions. And including a media kit in these documents is also handy, so influencers can access art assets, logos, and any other video materials about your game, which can help make their content more entertaining to its audience. And these briefs should always serve as a way to help get influencers excited about your game, so don't shy away from including any details that you believe will help an influencer feel more interested in your title. Examples of this could be something along the lines of, made by the developers behind blank, or this is the first Meta Horizon world to do or feature such and such. So we've also provided here a checklist and template of a typical brand guideline document that goes more in depth on what you should include while making yours. And so at this point, we can now get into one of the more critical, important parts of your campaign, which is identifying the correct influencers. Now, once you've identified whether you'd like to focus heavily on short form or long form, or adopt a mixture of both, and you've set your total campaign budget for any sponsorship spend, it's now time to dive into influencer research by combing through the platforms that you'll be targeting. Once you've started to form a list of influencers that you may be interested in reaching out to, you'll now need to ask the following 3 questions to see if they're the right fit for your game. So first, has the influencer seen success covering similar titles or experiences? If yes, then they and their audiences may have a more immediate interest in your title. And we also actually recommend this as a step if you have no idea where to start looking for influencers to cover your game, as finding your competitors or similar titles can be a great way to get this process off the ground. Next, is the influencer particularly strong at showing off a key mechanic that your game excels at? such as showing off complex physics mechanics or even being able to accurately display the humor that your title may focus on. And then lastly, does the influencer's audience align with the core demographic or psychographics for your target audience? Now, one way to determine this is by seeing if the influencer does cover similar titles to yours, what their audience's reactions are like in the comment sections.
Something really important we want to make sure to highlight here is that we always encourage developers to focus on an influencer's engagement metrics rather than their follower count. So there's been plenty of times when a developer has come to me and said, I want an influencer with 1 million subscribers to cover my game, and that's it. And that's great, but oftentimes an influencer might have a large following, but really low viewership and engagement metrics. So in the end, those subscriber numbers really don't help you at all if they aren't converting to views. So we've attached an example below of 2 different influencers, and as you can see, influencer A has a smaller following, but much higher viewership metrics compared to influencer B. So if an influencer with a large following, but really small performance metrics tries to quote you an exorbitant payment rate, we always encourage you, find a smaller creator whose performance metrics are more in line with their rates. So just be aware of falling into that trap of seeing a large follower number, seeing a large subscriber count, and immediately wanting to work with that creator. It's much more important to pay attention to those current viewership and engagement metrics.
All right, so now for one of the fun parts, which is finding contact information. So we have found over the years that while many influencers are super diligent about making it clear where and how to reach out to them, the different ways that they may list their contact information across social platforms can get a bit confusing. In general, we recommend checking an influencer's YouTube and TikTok bios for any relevant business emails, and YouTube is typically the easiest to use as that platform has a built-in email address feature in the YouTuber's About section, as you guys can see here with SoulFox's channel. Now, if you cannot find any email information listed in their bios, we then recommend seeing if an influencer possesses a link tree or a similar service like Beacons, which is typically an external website link that displays the different social handles and usually their contact information as well. Now, if you have no luck finding anything through those 2 methods, you can also try seeing if they have a public Discord where you can try to join and reach out to them there, or even seeing if their DMs are open on platforms like X and Instagram. And now another effective tool to help you all in your influencer outreach process is calculating an influencer's average CPM on their sponsored content. And so CPMs, or cost per milli, is a crucial tool for understanding the cost effectiveness of an influencer activation. They illustrate the amount of dollars spent for every 1,000 views achieved on a campaign, which essentially is the bang for your buck that a developer receives from a piece of influencer content. And achieving a low CPM is actually an indication that the money paid to the influencer drove more cost-effective awareness for your campaign, while higher CPMs are going to indicate that the influencer was less effective in grabbing its audience's attention for your title. And CPMs can be used in the aftermath of a campaign to evaluate overall results, or can be used in the aforementioned influencer negotiation stage when deciding between multiple different influencers who may be willing to cover your game. So if both influencers seem like a good fit, but you can only afford to pay one, choose the one with the better estimated CPM results based off their rate. And so we've listed the formula here, which is the total amount spent or the influencer's rate divided by the total impressions times 1,000. And to assist you all to get familiar and practice CPMs on your side, our team has created a guiding calculator for CPMs, which is linked here, which you all will be able to access and utilize if you wish. And so now that it comes time to actually pitch your title to the influencer, we recommend approaching those messages with the following tactics. First, integrating brand guidelines and the media kits that you've created into your influencer communications, as this helps the influencer get an immediate sense of your brand and your gamer experience. Next is adding in personalization to your outreach. Influencers receive a large amount of messages each day, so you want to show them that they're more than just the name on a spreadsheet that you found, and illustrate that you've watched their content and have a reason to think that your title will resonate with their audience. And you can even highlight any other features of your title that you think they will excel at in showing in their videos. And lastly, never CC any influencers and send out one mass message through email. And while managing some influencers on our end, we've unfortunately seen this happen before, where an influencer or a dev or agency reaches out to a bunch of influencers in one message, and the fallout of that, whether it was intentional or accidental, is always incredibly chaotic, as it often upsets influencers and makes them feel inconsequential.
Yeah, if I'm going to highlight one, I'm staring into your souls right now through this camera. Please do not mass CC the influencer messages. I promise you it's never fun to deal with. They have group chats, they talk about these things. That's not fun. So in the end, even if you're sending out a templated message, send it individually to the different creators. Don't do something where they can all see that you messaged 150 people at once and hoped someone responded. I totally get that approach and the energy behind it, but just send out the individual messages, even if it's templated.
All right, and so as with any other marketing strategy, influencer marketing always does present some risks. So below, we're going to go over some common pain points and corrections that often arise while working with influencers in the gaming and VR space. So an influencer backs out of an agreed upon sponsorship. Now, occasionally an influencer may attempt to back out of a sponsorship deal, and you all can mitigate this by ensuring that you and the influencer sign a sponsorship agreement prior to starting an activation. And if the influencer is dealing with serious personal issues, work with them to see if there's a way to establish a new timeline to deliver their content, or even see if there is an easier deliverable that the influencer can fill. Such as if they were originally supposed to do a long form video, could they now do some shorts instead, or any sort of social posts? Next is an influencer is experiencing filming challenges. So if an influencer that you agree to work with informs you that they're experiencing difficulties capturing content in your title, work with them to troubleshoot any potential fixes, or if possible, jump into the game with them at an agreed upon time to help the influencer through those technical issues where possible. Now, if the influencer cannot simply film the content, try finding ways to provide them B-roll or gameplay footage for them to utilize in their content instead. Lastly, an influencer produces a poor piece of content. And so oftentimes we see this with newer, younger influencers who may overlook brand guidelines or not take the time to fully plan out their content. And this can produce a video that does not live up to the quality expected by you or the influencer themselves. So ways that we mitigate this is by ensuring that at least one cycle of developer approval is included in their sponsorship agreement, because this gives the developer the opportunity to review and make edit requests to the influencer prior to posting. And this is a staple practice in the industry, so if an influencer is unwilling to edit their content during this approval process, the sponsoring party may wish to terminate that agreement and seek a new influencer to work with.
So now that you're aware of some of those risks and how to combat them, it's also important to think about some of the ways to maximize your influencer relationships. So first and foremost, we always advise you to form relationships with influencers who are already covering your game, if any exist. So during your initial influencer research process, try to see if any influencers are already covering your game. Of course, this is more relevant for titles that are already out versus new releases, but it's worth looking into this because influencers are going to be more inclined to cover your title in the long term if you actually reach out to them and form that relationship, if you see them covering the title organically. So they can become really valuable public assets for your company in the sense of they can provide great updates in terms of upcoming roadmaps or any new features you might have to your title if you work to establish that relationship and talk with that influencer yourself. We also recommend you generate incentives that are going to motivate influencers to cover your game repeatedly. So we don't just want an influencer to cover your game once at launch, we want to keep them coming back, making more content. So if you have the tools and the resources to do it, consider setting up a program where influencers who cover your title consistently receive some form of rewards like in-games cosmetics or any other personalized features you can provide them. So doing this can help to establish a sense of loyalty and actually create a sense of status among other influencers. So if influencers see that anyone who's covering your title consistently receives some form of in-world purchase or unique cosmetic, other influencers may want access to that cosmetic as well and may begin covering the title in an effort to get it. So anything you can think through that says, how can I get influencers to keep coming back to this? How can I create that sense of FOMO? That's a great way to maximize those influencer relationships.
All right, so we're almost getting to the end here, but before moving on to our last section, we do want to take a brief moment to talk about measuring your influencer marketing campaign's efficacy. Now, whether you've worked with one influencer or many, and after they have all completed and posted their deliverables, it is important to look back through any earned or sponsored content to analyze its performance. So we've included a linked content tracking guide and a template here, which reviews many of the key metrics that our team uses or looks for when completing our own data analysis and reports. Key metrics like CPM, total impressions, total engagements, and engagement rates are some of the most important that we look for to determine the success of an influencer activation. To break that down, and again going over, achieving a low CPM is an indication that the money you spent on an influencer drove a more cost-effective awareness for your game, while a higher CPM is going to indicate that the influencer was less effective in promoting your game. And similarly, engagement rates indicate how an influencer's content performed in terms of how well their audience reacted to the video. We get that number through the formula listed here, which is taking the total number of engagements divided by the total number of impressions times 100. The higher the engagement rate, the more interested the influencer's fans were in the video about your title. Engagement rates are not typically even across different social media platforms. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok typically produce higher average engagement rates amongst the influencers that we work with in the gaming space due to the demographics of users that we're typically targeting in this space being more prevalent on those platforms. And so engagement rates can also vary if content is boosted by ad support or not. And to help you all with understanding how those vary, we've included our own benchmarks off to the side here to help show where those rates differ among common social platforms.
So I know that we've talked through a lot of information today, so if you've reached the point in the presentation where only your short form video brains are still working, here's the key takeaways we'd love you to leave the webinar with. First and foremost, consider engaging with influencers at multiple steps throughout your title's life cycle. Influencers occupy a really unique role in the gaming space because they're both industry experts and direct bridges to consumers, so they can help inform your design choices and spread awareness on your behalf. So please, if you're working with influencers, consider both elements of that process. If your budget and bandwidth allow it, engage in a combination of both paid and earned outreach. If paid outreach isn't feasible at this time for your team, consider what unique levers your title can pull to give influencers to cover the game. So whether that's giving out early access, in-game cosmetics, any kind of press kits you might have, any kind of giveaways you could potentially implement for their audiences, consider what can be done to get an influencer to cover your title without payment. And lastly, be purposeful with your influencer selection. You're going to want to identify strong fits for your brand and focus on their current performance and audience engagement rather than any past performance or overall follower counts. So that is the bulk of our presentation today. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. We hope you learned a lot. We'll make sure that all of the worksheets we talked through get sent out after this presentation, and please feel free to come to office hours to discuss any further questions. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time.